Alright guys, Scrappy here, and I hope you're doing well and enjoying all day. So far, another series of major updates in the CDL Rostermania period. A few more updates coming out last night for free agencies, but also what is going on with the leagues here in the CDL. Over the last few years, we've had clearly a top echelon of teams, and then as you go further down the league, you get towards the poverty organisations. It seems this is the year many of those organisations, if not all of them, might be out of the window. We saw that Vegas are going, we believe, for Team Falcons, and now two more organisations are coming back to Call of Duty after several years away. Which cities might they represent, if any? Which players might they look to sign? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate, as I say, fair few free agency things to discuss as Adam assaults his unrestricted FA. Of course, he was on the Gorillas. They didn't even attend the World Cup in Riyadh. They were invited, they could have gone, they didn't decide to go. So it's kind of been known really for a few weeks that Gorillas are done. There's no way they're going to be a team for next year unless they, as they were last year, are forced to field a roster because nobody wants to buy the spot. Last year, who's going to pay any amount of millions of dollars for Gorilla's spot when they know it isn't worth what, well, it's meant to be worth? This year, the announcement came out a few months ago now that they're effectively getting rid of those franchise entrance fees, so all of a sudden, the 25 million is getting refunded and it all disappears. So now, the spot is definitely attainable, and, well, this is the chance, if there's any chance, if you want to come into the league, now's the time to do it rather than last year. So Gorillas are certainly dusted. Major Maniac, another AR that's looking for a spot for next year. Whether he'll get one, we'll see. Of course, he had that brief stint this year on Boston that didn't really go to plan, obviously, but as he says, back on a track title, so many individuals looking to get involved. Another key name, though, I would say in this period is Estriel, right? He represented Gorillas, then he joined Rocker, I'm pretty sure just on, as Beans did, a very short-term deal. I think a lot of these players and teams just signed these guys for the World Cup because, of course, he played on Rocket. Wasn't especially good. He played fine. The team was terrible. They came out top 16 at the event right under G2 Esports. But Estriel's a free agent, unrestricted, so I'm sure that he's going to get a good opportunity as well. The other question I wanted to raise to you guys really was around this Insight thing because we saw this yesterday. I talked about where Insight could go, but I guess the other point that I didn't really mention is who do Ultra get instead? Because if you are Toronto and you're looking to improve your team, getting rid of Insight is, well, maybe not what you might want to do. You've got to make some sort of changes, right? The team obviously isn't good enough, in my opinion, to consistently win, so I think they had to do something. The problem is, who do you get? Like, what AR is there out there who's better than Insight? Not many, and those that are pretty much an OpTic, FaZe, and, you know, maybe the Subliners. The only name that's like a proper free agent that's really going around is potentially aBeZy. I don't really know if Toronto would do that, but aBeZy is, we think, a full free agent from that Surge team, so he could go, and that might be something they're interested in. Does it really improve the team, though? I'm not so sure. Intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Just, I guess, one other quick thing here. This is on Scrappy's Instagram story yesterday, which is now no longer available, because it's just gone 24 hours since he posted it. So yeah, good job I screenshotted it real quick. There was actually a video of this. Envoy put this on his story and Scrappy then reposted it. And it was basically the boys in business just, you know, having a fun time on their flight back. So, I don't know. The theory goes, well, would Scrappy and Envoy be chilling like this? And they were chilling at the airport as well. I saw them, you know, picking up a Dunkin' Donuts or whatever it was at ReeaL airport before they dipped out of there. So, I don't know. There's just been people talking about this story and saying, well, Scrap and Envoy seem to be vibing pretty heavy. Are they going to be dropped? Well, is Envoy going to go? Possibly not. Although if Envoy was to go, obviously there'd be a few teams that should be interested, namely potentially Thieves. I think if you're Los Angeles Thieves and you can maybe swap out Kremp for Envoy, I think that's a change you probably do make. Of course, bringing him back to the Thieves. If you can't get Envoy or a player on that caliber, I think Thieves might just potentially stick it out for next year. That wouldn't be a bad idea either. Some player cards real quick. This was Xnid, who despite having a rather unorthodox like aiming style, was actually pretty impressive this tournament, right? Because they played FaZe, they played Law, and over both of the series, he held his own pretty impressively. And that therefore has been the big question on what's going to happen with Team Falcons compared to Legion, because Vegas Legion are going to be replaced. We are pretty sure about that right now, and Falcons are going to come through. So it's about time that Legion go, and obviously we discussed this in some depth yesterday. Pretty funny as well from Temp, where he says rip Legion, and technically Temp is going to go down as like Legion's greatest ever player, you know, the longest tenured player on the team and all this type of stuff. But you know, thankfully Legion are going to go, we think, and therefore there's been questions, what are Falcons going to do? Are they going to come in and bring along some of those Saudi players? My expectation would be, this is what I think they should do, they should come over, they should have an academy team in North America and basically sign these guys, Xnid, Khalid, King of Body, Roxas, whoever they want to sign, as players on their academy, but their starting roster should probably be, you know, just, well, as Parasite says, good players, at least good proven league players, because there's many of them out there. I think that's probably what Falcons will do. I don't expect them to come in and just put in their team straight into the league that they just played out of the World Cup, because those guys need time. But as Vance says, no bait, some of these Saudi players I've seen are actual shooters. Maybe Luti, who's currently coaching that team, is the chosen one to help showcase this talent on the big stage. So, interesting observation, really. And as I say, I think if they had an academy team, they bring those Saudi players over on their academy, play in North American challenges, get better, improve, learn, scrim the main team, whatever. But I don't think Falcons are going to want to field a team that's going to come dead last in the league. So I think they're going to come in and probably make some moves, and we know they've got money to spend. So whether they'll go along to OpTic, to FaZe, to Toronto, to Subliners, Cloud9, and try and, well, pay some money for a player, that of course is a question. But the other question is whether other organizations might do the same, because it's not just been Vegas that have been a terrible org in the league over the last several years. Ravens absolutely kind of, well, fall under the same heading as far as I'm concerned, right? Because these guys, as an organization at least, have basically just been terrible. I mean, they did run an event back in 2020. They tried to do one last year, or this year, sorry, but it obviously got cancelled, which was a nightmare. They even obviously came last place at that major as well, made no money, and therefore didn't make champs. So, you know, that was an absolute disaster class, really. All sorts of problems with this team when it comes down to visas when they were London back in the day, all the behind-the-scenes stuff that's happened with this team, obviously not paying much money anyway, and their organization did not have a good result this year. Top 8, top 6, top 8, top 12, didn't make champs. Top 8 at the World Cup in the end. So, you know, Ravens, not an organisation that have really done much for the scene. How much content have they really made? You know, they are one of the poverty orgs. Nobody denies that. The other poverty org lately has, of course, been the Los Angeles Guerrillas. They had a $130,000 earned season. A lot of that, of course, was from their third place back at Major 4, but they didn't even go to the World Cup, right? So these guys, obviously, as an organisation, they had all the money. Stan Kroenke was coming in, throwing the money around. A couple of years ago, they decided, all right, this ain't for us. We're going to get out of esports, and we've just been waiting for them to leave, effectively. This season, though, this time is when we're expecting those changes to happen. There's been talk from Space Station Gaming. They're a name that's gone around. Even I think their CEO or their founder basically publicly said, yeah, we're interested in getting into Call of Duty. Falcons have been for years. Seems like they're going to get the Vegas spot. And now 2 more organizations getting thrown around. The Ghost of Hope says Fnatic and Gen G are going to return to the scene in Black Ops 6 to replace the Ravens and the Guerrillas respectively. This is also the Boston Breach situation quickly. Sources also indicate that Boston may be running it back. We'll get to that in a second, but let's talk about these 2 organizations, right? Because Fnatic, legendary esports brand, they were in COD for like 1 year back in Infinite Warfare. You guys might remember this legendary team of Sunny B, Scraps, Waskin and Tommy. Of course, Scraps, Waskin, the twins, Tommy, Trowan, legendary EU player, and then Gerdip, Sunny B, Baines. So this is a fun team. I remember they won like a 2K once and I was absolutely buzzing because I used to watch Tommy stream all the time, and they were a cool organisation. They didn't have a great year as Fnatic, but you know, Fnatic are a legendary esports organisation, there's no doubt about it. And also, interestingly enough, a UK based organisation, because if they come in and buy the Ravens, you know, would they take Ravens back to London? I mean, probably if they have to choose a city, they would be interested in doing that. What are they going to call the team? I don't know. There's so many questions up in the air now, but there must be a reason why this year is the year where all these changes seem to be happening, because we might have 4 organizations change, which shows how much of a shambles the league has been in many ways, that we've got Vegas, Ravens, Guerrillas, and potentially Boston all going at the same time. But we've also got to talk about Gen G, another great organization fielding great teams in multiple different esports. They were in COD back in Black Ops 4, the team with Havoc on, and I mean, this is Naga, Major Maniac, Spacely, and Morks. Well, what a team that was. And, you know, making deep runs, the top 2 at like Anaheim and stuff like this, I'm pretty sure. And then they came top 32 at Champs that year, which was a wild time. And then they dipped out of the sport, of course, when franchising came around. Now, it's not just these orgs that have been rumoured around spots. As I said, Space Station Gaming is in the mix. As I said, well, a few weeks ago now, TSM have been thrown around in the conversation. And Ronnie says he's hearing these talks are ongoing, as in this isn't like a done deal, but definitely these are conversations being had, and there are more organizations looking to get a COD spot than there are COD spots probably willing to sell, which is pretty fascinating. It's good for the scene in general. It shows that there is interest and optimism around competitive Call of Duty esports, even though the state of the league hasn't really been great. And this is an interesting tweet as well from a member of Carmine Corp, who says, the big rumours since the start of the week, Fnatic and Gen G rejoining the COD League in place of the Ravens and Gorillas. It leaves the spot of Boston. This means something kind of like to close the loop, really. Just like that's the final thing that's got to be determined. Many names are mentioned. So, this is like the question on who's going to buy Boston. Is it going to be anyone? Is it going to be TSM? Is it going to be Space Station? Or are they going to stick it out? Now, if Boston stay, I don't mind as long as they... Well, as long as it's the way they currently are. Maybe they don't need to spend as much money as they did. I don't know who's making the calls over there, but I don't want Boston to do a Gorillas and just become a poverty org for the next couple of years, because Boston ran great events in Boston for the last couple of seasons. Like, they've been a good organization. They've committed to the space. They've tried to do their, done good content. They've hosted events. They've tried to spend money to form good teams. But of course, it hasn't worked for various reasons. They've done academy stuff. They've run local lands at the Helix Center, stuff like this. So Boston have done many good things for the space. I don't just want them to go unless they're going to become what Gorillas have become over the last couple of years, which is completely useless. In which case, sure, somebody else should buy them out. So it's very interesting. Obviously, Ghost of Hope also goes on to say there's lots of moving parts here, and even TSM is potentially replacing one of the current CDL teams, but with who I've talked to and how many people I've talked to, basically can't be confident enough on that one, but he's confident enough to talk about this. So, very questionable situation. The other question to me is what happens to the city-based stuff, because this is the exciting part for me on whether this is going to stay or go, whether teams can do what they want when it comes down to whether they represent a city or not. Because my feeling is there's obviously a reason why all the teams are looking to change now, and by far the number one reason is going to be because the franchise fees are getting refunded, so there's no kind of like crazy buyout money involved. But another reason may be on the city-based aspect. Like, Gen G are a Korean team, so if they're going to represent a city anyway, they'd probably want to represent Seoul. But are they going to want to do that? Does it even make any sense having a team that represents Seoul, but they're all based out of the US anyway? Like, I just don't really get it, right? And it's the same reason why even, let's say, a team like Surge or Minnesota Rocker, sure, at times Rocker have done some local activation stuff, but the teams are all based out of Texas anyway. So are you really representing your city when you're living in Texas mostly anyway? Sure, the FaZe guys are based in Atlanta, the Thieves guys are based out of LA, but most teams aren't even where their city is anyway, so I don't really get it. And I don't think the Gen G want to represent some, do they want to be Los Angeles Gen G Los Angeles, Fnatic Carolina? Like, it's just awful, isn't it? And I'm sure that they must be having conversations on this. So Ghost of Hope says, I think it's entirely team dependent now. Now, he says in the replies that he's kind of maybe basing this to some degree on what 100T said the other day, when 100T kind of replied, we saw the tweet yesterday, 100T replied to Los Angeles Thieves and said, hey, maybe you get to keep the name. So there's obviously been some theories on this, and his perspective is that possibly the teams get to choose, or maybe it can just be Fnatic or something. Obviously, Jack Etienne from Cloud9 said that it's going to be Cloud9 New York, but maybe that's the backup plan. Maybe ideally it's just Cloud9. So, yeah, I guess time will tell on this one, but exciting times. And also, the big thing for me is Ravens and Gorillas for the last couple of years, they've paid the minimums. They're not going to go out there and pay money to try and form a good team. Fnatic and Gen G are big organizations. They're not going to be happy not making it to champs. Like, they want to be competitive, and sure, it's a difficult league to be competitive in. OpTic and FaZe are going to be leading the lines, you'd imagine. Falcons are probably going to come in and spend some money. Toronto, Cloud9, Thieves, they've been strong over the last couple of years, and now you're thinking Fnatic and Gen G might be coming into play to, we could get a really interesting league. I'm sure it's still going to be top heavy, but I think it's quite fascinating to see which type of players these teams might target, because, they're not just here for the ride. They're not just here, as Ravens and Gorillas were, to come in, spend your $25 million, and hope that the asset appreciates in the coming years. They're here for the competition. They're here to help the scene. You would at least think, given their tenure of organization, organisations, which I think is pretty exciting for everyone involved. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Just thought this is kind of remarkable really from OpTic, excluding Major 4, which of course they didn't attend or something, not really sure what happened there. But apart from that, obviously all the top 3s and, you know, I mean, it's pretty incredible, right? 5 top 3 placings basically on the year. Definitely much better than it was last year, right? Which was obviously a very up and down season for multiple different reasons. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.